All right. So I was in northern Saskatchewan about, it's got to be 20 years ago now. And I had gone to visit some cousins that I hadn't seen for years. And I was close to them when I was young, and I admired them. They were the woman in particular, she was the most beautiful woman I ever met. She was one of those women that was so beautiful you couldn't even be near her. It was just too much to bear, you know, and it wasn't good for her. It was too much, you know.
Helen of Troy.
Yeah, really, just amazingly beautiful woman. Her mother was a very beautiful woman too, and so her sister as well, but she was particularly stellar. And I was very close with her sister, who was my age. And we went to visit them in this little town in Saskatchewan, and she was living in a basement apartment with a baby, and this is the beautiful woman. And it wasn't really happy time. Like, I had gone off to university, and my sister was with me, and so was my brother. We had gone off to have our adventures, and they had kind of stayed in this little cloistered small town environment, you know. And I thought they were both, she hadn't manifested her full potential, let's say. And so it was kind of melancholic, sad, Bruce Springsteen sort of, you know,
Right, sure.
glory days thing. And so we were there for a while, and we were there for a couple hours. My brother, my younger brother, had really hero worshipped this woman when he was a kid. And not surprisingly, you know, and when we left, my sister, who's a very clear-headed person, turned to me and said, "Glory days," in reference to the Bruce Springsteen song. And that was kind of sad, you know, and because it was right. And my brother just got upset. He was just upset about that because he thought that what my sister had said was mean. And perhaps it was, but it doesn't, or maybe he thought that what she said was cruel or impolite or any of those things. But she was willing to see the stark reality, and he was not. And he was having some trouble in his life at that point with his marriage and with other things. And I was very irritated that he went after my sister. Now, we had got back together. We were living in very different parts of the world, so we'd got back together too. It wasn't like we'd been hanging around with each other that much. And so we drove back to another relative's house for Christmas. It was like 30 below, 11 o'clock at night. Bare Saskatchewan highway. No one on it, because there's no one on the Saskatchewan highways, especially not at 11 o'clock in the morning when it's like, or 11 o'clock at night when it's 30 below, and the snow was drifting across the roads. And I was having a serious conversation with my brother, telling him that it wasn't appropriate for him to go after my sister just because she could see what was right in front of her face. And he was kind of naive, you know. And so we had a kind of a scrap. And, but we were trying to sort things out. And so then we got to my aunt's place, and they lived in a farm in northern central Saskatchewan. It was very pitch dark and like icy, bitterly cold. It must have been, I said 30 below, but I think it was colder than that. It was plenty cold, man. And my sister went in the house, and my brother and I weren't done talking. And so I said, "Look, let's not go in. We're not done talking yet." So we went into my cousin's garage. It was an old log garage. And inside that, he had a 1970 AMC sports car, rare car, that he was restoring. And he hadn't touched it for a couple of months. It wasn't heated in the garage, and it had a tarp over it. And I was talking to my brother, and the conversation was getting more heated, and I had this uncanny sense, and I can't remember this exactly right because it's so long ago. I had this uncanny sense that something was going to happen. And I said to him, I knew he had been reading Carlos Castaneda, and there's a bird in Carlos Castaneda that shows up now and then when Castaneda has something to learn. And I said, you should be careful, because if you don't open your eyes, then something is going to come to visit you that you do not want to see. And at that very moment, there was inside the trunk of that car, which had been sitting there not being touched for like a month, there was the beating of large wings, and it was really, really loud and really obvious. And there was a sense of there was a sense of the uncanny around it, you know. It was like it was so perfectly timed. It was a synchronous moment.
Your brother heard it.
Oh yeah, my brother heard it. Oh yeah, we both heard it. That was for sure. We both heard it. Yeah, and I said that's going to happen again, and it happened again. I said that's going to happen again, and it happened again. So it happened 3 times. And 3 is an interesting number, because if something happens 3 times,
it's like
it's not once. You know, it's 3 times.
Yeah.
I said, you know, That
a pattern.
This spirit of wisdom has visited you, and you have something to learn, you know. And so we both left the house, and we were quite shaken up by that. We didn't know what to say.
Did you look in the trunk?
No,
Like,
no.
Hell no, to the no, no, no. Yeah, to the no, hell to the no, to the no, no, no. Listen.
Well, no, and that's a great question, because afterwards we both thought, well, why didn't we just go in the house and like get the keys? But I'll tell you, when something like that happens, that isn't what you do. That's all I can say about that. It's like there wasn't anything in the trunk. Like there wasn't an owl. There wasn't an owl in the trunk. It's like, first of all, how could there be an owl in the trunk? First, it would be dead. It's 40 below. Like nothing lives, you know, when it's that cold. And what? It's just sitting there waiting for that moment to flap its wings. It's like, so part of the reason we didn't.
You both knew
Yeah,
there's nothing in there.
That's right. You don't. It was so obvious that the right response wasn't. The right response was when the bird of knowledge visits you in the middle of the night to teach you something. The right response is not to look in the trunk. Right. So we walked in. We walked into the house, and that's fine. And so he went to sleep, and he came to me the next morning. He said he had a terrible nightmare that he was fighting off this like demonic creature at night with a electric carving knife. And so we talked about that. And that was all well and good. And so then about 4 years later, we went back to the same place. And we were walking, my cousin, they had a house and then another house about 1/8 of a mile away on the same farmstead. And we were staying in the second house. It was an old house. And so we were walking back from the house where this had happened to the other house, and we were talking about it because it was an uncanny experience. And there were some other things that happened associated with it that I can't explain. It's too complicated to explain them. And so we walked into the house, and we turned on the lights, and we got to the moment where we were talking about the bird appearing in the trunk, and the lights went off in the house. And so it was like an echo. It was like a tap. It's like, this happened 3 times, and whap! Like, here's a reminder that it happened. And, well, that was that. That was the second ghost story, and it was like, not explicable. And not explicable to him either. And
It's great that you guys shared that.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, definitely. Definitely.
Do you still talk about it with him from time to time?
Oh yeah. Yeah. We still talk about
Incredible.
it. But we don't, there's no explaining it any more than there
Is
was.
that car still there in the garage?
No, I don't believe so. It was a long time ago. I think my cousin probably sold it. So
Whoever got that car.
that's right. That's right. They
Watch
got
that
the bird.
trunk.
They got more
Watch
than they
that.
bargained for.
Yeah. Wow, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
That was
No
great.
problem.